Hey, learning nerds. Happy New Year. I wanted to invite you to come join me on the next webinar that I'm going to be hosting with D2L, and this is on practical AI for higher education, designing, assessing, and innovating. This is going to be held on February 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to dive on into the nitty-gritty. We're going to be talking about building out custom types of GPTs, talking about using AI as far as for scenario-based learning and much of our different types of learning strategies, and also rethinking assessments in this new AI era. How do we make something more AI resistant with our assessments, which is always going to be a fun one to talk about. So hey, come nerd out with me once again, February 12th, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to put the link down inside of the show notes, and I can't wait to see you there. Okay, with that being said, let's start the show. Hello, learning nerds, and welcome on in to the nerdiest podcast that you're going to hear today. My name is Dr. Luke Hobson. I'm your host of this show. The purpose of this show is all about teaching, learning, and design, thinking about how to make your learning experiences more meaningful, more relevant, and more interesting, and of course, more impactful for your learners and for your students, which is why we dive in deep into instructional design, learning science, and everything of a sort when it comes to thinking about how to actually craft the best type of learning experience possible. And of course, for any types of resources or show notes and for all the other things that I have for you, you can head on over to drlukehobson.com to be able to find them. And by the way, happy 2026. Can't believe that we're here and time seems to be flying by. In today's age, while we're constantly talking about AI every single second, I kind of took a break from sharing about AI for a little bit on LinkedIn, and I wanted to talk more about something that to me is currently more meaningful, which is leadership. And I was wondering if I started to talk more about what it's actually like to be an instructional design manager, to be an instructional design leader. Is that going to hit home for any of you? And I shared these thoughts the other day on LinkedIn, and I did not realize how many of you were in the same position. Either you're transitioning now into a leadership role, or you've been a manager for a while, and the job is proving to be quite a challenge. I know when I moved into a leadership position, I couldn't wait to build out my instructional design dream team. I was going to find the best learning nerds, the people obsessed with instructional design and passionate about creating outstanding learning experiences, and I pictured us holding weekly meetings to discuss the latest research, reviewing books, and brainstorming what to try next. But when this move happened, I found myself in uncharted waters. The job was nothing like I expected. Where my team needed help was with people and project management. Like when a professor cancels a filming session 4 times in a row, how do you get them back on track? When a project looks like it's going to go over budget, how do you cut costs without sacrificing quality? When a SME unexpectedly quits, what do you do next? Your priority is still on the learning experience, but it takes an entirely new shape. So for this episode, I want to be able to share with you specific advice on managing instructional designers, what to do versus what not to do, and making sure that I'm going into the nitty-gritty of it all. Because I found a lot of leadership books and resources out there are kind of vague and they're kind of broad. And I'm like, no, I want like really specific, tangible steps that I need to think about if I'm going to become a leader. And if I was to go back in time and to give myself advice on how to be able to do this, these are my top 5 tips for you on essentially sharing my top 5 blunders. So here we go. Lesson number 1, different work styles require different management styles. Obvious statement is obvious, but this was so hard for me to wrap my mind around. As an instructional designer, I'll admit I'm a bit of an oddball. In grad school, one of my public speaking professors called me quirky and confident, but when everyone described me as an eccentric game show host. I don't think these qualities come to mind as a normal instructional designer. With this said, when it came to building out my team, I knew exactly what I wanted in candidates, people who didn't think like me. As a designer, I'm a creative. I have no problem coming up with ideas and getting buy-in from stakeholders. However, it's a challenge for me to see the tiny details. I get super motivated, I run with an idea, but I forget to follow through on the tiny little things. For these reasons, I wanted to surround myself with folks who were careful, detail-oriented, organized, data-obsessed, and followed processes to the letter. The team I wanted to build out needed to be balanced. Here's what I didn't expect though, and looking back on this, it was staring at me in the face. Since my team members worked differently than I do, they also want to be managed differently. Take one-on-ones, for example. As an individual contributor, I never found them helpful. If something came up that I needed to either inform my director about or I truly needed guidance, I picked up the phone and I called her. That's my style, is to act more like urgency. And my team, on the other hand, they love one-on-ones. They value those regular check-ins to discuss project progress and next steps. They also appreciate the space to talk about their professional growth and brainstorming. They love having a logbook to document what we discussed and can refer back to this at any time. And I'll be honest, this took some getting used to. My director and I canceled our recurring one-on-ones because of a holiday, and we forgot about them completely for like 4 months. That does not come to mind for me, so that's where my headspace is at. For my team, I had to become more methodical. I started mapping out agendas, preparing discussion points, reviewing team updates, and asking how I could better support them. All of this was new to me as a first-time manager. Managing a team has pushed me to grow by considering other perspectives and angles I hadn't thought about before. I knew how to manage like-minded people. I didn't know how to manage everyone else. Lesson 2, people are more willing to forgive and forget. When you become a leader, you want to be right all the time. You want to be seen as a go-to person who can solve any problem, and the truth is, you're gonna screw up. You're new to leadership. It's inevitable. And when it happens, it's going to feel awful. You feel like you let your entire team down due to carelessness or an oversight. But here's the thing, folks. It's usually not as big of a deal as you think. Your team knows you're new and is often more willing to forgive and forget. I remember one time I completely spaced when performance reviews were due. I thought we had several weeks. It turned out it was just a few days away. And let's be honest, no one loves doing rush performance reviews on top of other projects. I mean, no one really likes doing performance reviews, period. So I admitted to the team, I messed up. I felt awful about it, and I kind of needed them to really drop what they're doing and rush to get these things done. But the team understood, and we did get it done. And the next time performance reviews came around, I was on top of my game. It has never happened again. What I found to be helpful was to be honest with my team and saying that either I didn't have an answer and I'm going to get back to them, or if I made a mistake, I owned it. And then I tried to be able to figure out the solution from there. Lesson 3, share your mistakes to build trust. Speaking of mistakes, by the way, most leaders don't talk about their blunders. Maybe it's embarrassing, or they worry that their team is going to view them in a negative light, but I've realized how valuable it is to share these moments. Once, one of my IDs was really nervous to bring up a mistake. The project had gone off the rails, and they spent a lot of time thinking about how to tell me that things are going wrong. And during our one-on-one, they nervously brought it up, and I said, "Oh, that? I've done that plenty of times. Here's how we can fix it." And their response was, "I thought I was the first one to make this mistake, ... And I was stunned to hear that, and also really surprised by how much they festered on this issue. It took a lot of their brain space, and it took up a lot of stress for them. And the thing that I wanted to be able to convey is that things happen. It's very, very rare that something becomes unfixable. And that moment, along with others, helped me to see as far as for the value of being relatable. And sharing my own past mistakes made me more approachable, and now my team seems more comfortable bringing issues to me early on. Lesson 4, transparency requires discernment. By nature, I'm a direct and transparent person. I like hearing the full picture, the good and the bad, so that way I can figure out what to do next. And because of that, there's always a voice in the back of my head that's telling me to be fully transparent with the team. Holding back information feels uncomfortable. I don't like it, but I understand why some managers do it. To give you an example, I heard a rumor in the senior leadership circle that would have potentially impacted the instructional design team. And not even giving it a second thought, I shared the rumor during an upcoming team meeting and then immediately regretted it. A part of me was openly venting about the rumor and how it's going to disrupt our workflow, and I was really annoyed. But at the end of the day, I knew it was a rumor. There was a high likelihood that none of this was going to happen, and simply, I was just blowing off steam. And I thought the team was going to interpret the information in the same way and join me in the banter and join me in ranting. And instead, it got really awkward and quiet. And I was like, well, that's not good. And I tried to walk it back, but the damage was already done. What I should have done first was gather more information, talk to colleagues, and plan next steps. I acted on impulse. And in the moment, I thought I was being transparent. But really, I was oversharing information and feeding into that rumor. And oh, by the way, in case if you're wondering, that rumor never came true, and I scared my entire team for no reason. Super fun. And there's a time and a place to share. That's what I've learned. There's a time and a place to share. There's also a tremendous value in waiting, collecting the facts, and strategically deciding how to move forward. Not everything needs to be handled right away. And for the fifth and final lesson, it is building a support network of fellow managers. Have you ever faced a situation where you had absolutely no idea what to do? And I mean, like, not even the slightest clue. It just stumped you. Well, this happened to me when a team member of mine and another team, they had a disagreement, and it was like, what do we do from here? You both had valid points. You are both not wanting to back down, and it made for a very awkward vibe around the office. And because of this, I didn't know what to be able to do and how I was going to make it right. So I did the next logical step. I talked to my director, and her advice was helpful, but something still felt missing. And then, by chance, I ran into a friend at work who manages a completely different team at MIT, and I figured, why not ask him? Got nothing to lose. So I said, if someone from another team had a disagreement with yours and it needed to be solved ASAP, what would you do? And turns out he dealt with a similar situation just that last month and shared with me what he learned from the process. If I had never talked to him, I'm pretty sure I would still be thinking about what to do. And that experience taught me how I needed to connect with fellow managers on my level. Not someone way above me, not someone below me. I needed to find someone who was potentially dealing with the exact same challenges that I was going through, and hopefully they had some type of experience or a solution that they can share with me in order to help out and to figure out where to go from there. So my advice for you from this perspective is that you need to form these connections in order to create that channel to hear advice. Most likely, they're sitting on this information and they're not sharing it anywhere. So essentially, they're keeping the knowledge, and you want to be able to build up these different types of avenues in order for this information to come about. So maybe you're going to be hosting a monthly stand-up, you're going to create a Slack channel, you're going to find brown bag lunches at work to host more casual conversations, whatever it is. You need to be able to build out a network of fellow managers. And that, folks, those are just a few things that I've learned so far on this leadership journey. I do not have all the answers, to be very clear with you, and I'm still figuring things out as I go. But if you have picked up a helpful tip on your own journey and kind of taking the advice that I just mentioned about a moment ago, please feel free to share what you've learned. Don't just keep it for yourself. Share what you have learned. Feel free to either drop it down in the comments section on LinkedIn where this is currently being posted, or to be able to share as far as for sharing out the podcast episode and talking more about it with your network. And hopefully we can help out other instructional design managers as it comes to figuring out how to be able to best lead their team in order to support them. If you liked this leadership episode, by the way, please let me know. LinkedIn or write to me, luke@drlukehobson.com. would love to be able to create more. I can definitely invite some of my guests to join me on the podcast from my network who are certainly fantastic instructional design leaders who I think would make for a great podcast guests to be able to share what they have learned along the way. Once again, I'm so surprised by how this information, there isn't too many things out there as far as with instructional design leadership. There is a lot about instructional design, period, as far as with the field or processes or models or frameworks or everything. But when it comes to actually like, hey, how do you lead a team of these people? It's like, there's not much information to go by. So more than happy to be able to create more information all around this. If you liked the podcast episode, give it a 5-star rating wherever you are listening. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't yet already. And of course, subscribe to the newsletter, Confessions of a Learning Nerd. And that, my friends, is all I have for you today. Stay nerdy out there, and I'll talk to you next time.